Well, good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 2nd of July, which is a Monday evening. And our first story is we're back into cryptos again. Is it time for retailers to join the crypto craze? This is a very interesting and timely article, and it says that there is no urgency to begin accepting digital money, experts say, but cautious dabbling wouldn't hurt. Many have indeed rushed into adopting so-called crypto, digitally encrypted currencies that operate outside of central banks for fear of missing out on what could be the hot new trend in e-commerce. The result is a good number of retailers, cafes and even fast food outlets accepting Bitcoin alongside cash, credit cards and Apple Pay. And I accept Bitcoin in my store for haircuts, and I think this is another, actually it's a WebBot hit. This is the integration of cryptocurrencies into general acceptance in society. Now, you know, I'm sure all of you have been watching the extreme volatility that's been taking place in the crypto market, and you know, one of the reasons for this is that banks, central banks especially, are absolutely scared to death of blockchain technology, because it means that their little fraud game of fractional reserve is up. They will no longer be able to play that game, because as soon as you create those $9 out of that $1 and try and charge interest on all of them, the blockchain will pick that up as an instant fraud and will not allow that form of transaction to take place. So there is a lot of undercurrent here that is completely afraid and unwilling to accept Bitcoin until they have it on their terms. When I look at the charts, I still see there is an awful lot of manipulation going on in the cryptocurrency world, and I'm sure again this is done by the banks and the large financial institutions and the big investors who are reaping benefits from this kind of stuff. But Bitcoin and all of these cryptocurrencies will stabilize. Well, I shouldn't say all of them. Now you see, this is another thing that's taking place within the crypto world, is the fact that there are so many new issuances of coins. So many of these platforms they're untested, they're impracticable, they depend on other people creating other platforms to work in unison. So as Clif said, an awful lot of these coins and tokens are just going to disappear because they have no tangible use in our system. And this is just like the dot-com bubble. Remember the dot-com bubble? It did exactly the same thing. It was absolutely insane. People were investing in companies that really didn't even know what they were manufacturing or what they did in the scheme of things. They just knew that if you had an IPO and you were a dot-com company, well then you were just going to reap rewards. Okay, well, we're going to the same thing here, and of course you remember in 1999 going into 2000 there was a great weeding out, and that's what we're going through now, is a great weeding out. But I still do have extreme confidence in your base Ethereum, Bitcoin and Litecoin. Okay, those are the three, and you know, I wouldn't bet the farm on all of this, but you know, a modest investment and just sit on that. Now I have bought a Trezor wallet that should be arriving in a few days, and I'm going to go through downloading your cryptocurrencies onto a Trezor hard wallet, because I've heard an awful lot of rumors that there is going to be some kind of hiccup in July, and you want to have all of your cryptocurrencies out of exchanges and online wallets. You want to have everything in a hard wallet, offline, where nobody can touch it. And that is good advice under any circumstances. So anyways, I will give you an update on that in the not too distant future, as soon as that little package arrives from Europe. I think it's made in France, and anyway, I paid in euros. It just boggles the mind, actually. You know, where you buy things online and you use a credit card And this, of course, it's exactly how Bitcoin and Litecoin are going to work on the internet. Okay, next story. The carbon tax racket is coming to an end, and thank goodness for that. Justin Trudeau is definitely going to have his back against the wall on this particular issue, because I think the public now are starting to smell a huge stinking rat here. In the Ontario election, it could not help but be noticed that all three parties were asked how are they going to pay for their promises without a carbon tax. And so, of course, it was revealed that the carbon tax is not going to reduce carbon at all. It may go into one or two initiatives, for example, or incentives for people to maybe change the way they do business, rebates on electric cars and this kind of stuff. But by and away, the majority of the carbon tax cap and trade was going to go into the government coffers and be spent on salaries for civil servants, benefits, and the general running of government. And so I believe we're already taxed enough without coming up with some kind of cock and bull carbon tax to inflict on businesses, which is going to get, you know that this carbon tax is going to get handed directly on to the public. So once again, the public is left holding the bag. And I think one of the big clues that this was an absolute farce is the idea of cap and trade. Okay, when you can trade with companies that pollute less, or manufacturers that pollute less than you do, and they have credits, and you can trade those credits to allow you to continue what you're doing. That tells me that this is a completely insincere project, because if carbon dioxide was as dangerous as they say it is, then there would be no yielding, there would be no negotiation. You would be paying a huge penalty for spewing carbon into the air. But no, we're allowing some of the worst polluters to continue polluting and to pass on that carbon tax credit cost to the general public by way of their purchases. So this is a complete scamola, ladies and gentlemen. I have proof. I have the Vostok ice core samples that have the isotopes for carbon dioxide. This is a 750,000 year chart that shows that CO2 lags temperature increase. In other words, temperature increases first, and then the CO2 increases as it's released from the oceans and the ground, permafrost, etc., etc. So, yes, let's move on to the next subject, because I do find this lack of understanding around carbon, the atmosphere, and climate change to be quite frustrating. So, I'm going to show you this whole page, because this is what I call constructional lying by the mainstream media. Now you can see the top story there is eye in the sky spying, and then we come down to US top court restricts police collection of cell phone location data, and corrections ombudsman calls for closing of aging prisons. And way down in the corner here is this tiny little story. It's even got smaller headlines. You see that? See how small those headlines are? Now I'm actually going to read you that article, and you'll see right at the very end, in this final paragraph, is where the constructional lying takes place. Okay, and this is not withholding information. This is writing it in such a way that you just don't see the whole story. So the headline is, Trudeau fined $100 for not disclosing gift of sunglasses from PEI Premier. Okay, I'm going to read the whole article. It says, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was forced to pay a $100 fine for violating conflict of interest rules by not disclosing a gift given to him last year by PEI Premier Wade McLaughlin. The gift was 2 pairs of leather-covered aviator sunglasses presented to Mr. Trudeau during a visit to Prince Edward Island in June 2017. Each pair, made by the fellow Earthling Sunglasses Company in Guernsey Cove, PEI, was worth $300. The federal conflict of interest rules dictate all gifts valued more than $200 must be publicly declared within 30 days of acceptance. Mr. Trudeau's press secretary says an administrative error was to blame for not filling out the proper forms for declaring the gift within 30 days. Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion's office confirmed he administered a financial penalty of $100 to Mr. Trudeau, which has since been paid. The Prime Minister has great respect for the work of the Commissioner's office and will continue to follow his advice and guidance. Okay, now this is the last paragraph. Okay, this marks the second time Mr. Trudeau has been censured by the Ethics Office. In December, then Commissioner Mary Dawson found Mr. Trudeau broke Canada's ethics laws over 2 all-expenses-paid family trips to a private island in the Bahamas owned by the Aga Khan. Okay, so that is husband, wife and 3 children. What do you think it cost to fly 5 people down to the Bahamas, to a multi-millionaire's mansion, home again, then down there again, and then home again? Now, I know it's part of the story, they are including it, but the bulk of the story is about these stupid pairs of sunglasses which you paid $100. Most people would not finish that story. They'd read the headline and go, yeah, okay, what a cute little story, ha 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 ha. But the real issue is going over to a multi-millionaire's island for Christmas. Isn't this partisan politics? Isn't this, well, the optics are very bad, let's put it this way. And we have another situation, you know, Ethics Commissioner clears Morneau in pension case. Okay, so this is the case where the Finance Minister, Bill Morneau, and he is also on the board of directors for, or his family owns, a pension company, a huge pension company that does business with the government. Okay, and he did not declare that he had over 1 million shares in this company whilst he was making decisions as a finance minister for the pension plan of the government, of which his company is in charge of administering. Okay, so it says Conflict of Interest Act prevents cabinet ministers and other senior officials from participating in government decisions in which they have a private interest. However, the Act also includes an exception. Wouldn't you just know it? Wouldn't you just know it? There's a gold darn exception. And that exception is a decision, is if the decision relates to a matter of general application. And Mr. Dion ruled the exception should apply in this case. Fancy that. Mr. Morneau thanked Mr. Dion for the decision and said in a statement that he has always followed the Ethics Commissioner's advice, even the exceptions. Canadians should always be able to trust that the people they have elected to serve are working in their best interest, he said. I have always and will always hold myself to the highest possible standard. Now, they print these stories, and I don't know about you, maybe I am just a little long in the tooth, but that is just such a weak kind of let off the hook when we all know that this guy was messing around, knowing that he should not have held those shares, knowing that there was a huge conflict of interest, and you get let off by an exception, just like Duffy there, who couldn't remember what his primary residence was whilst he was a senator. Come on, are you kidding me? Are you going to tell me in your heart of hearts that you believe that story? That these people just, oh yeah, it was just an oversight, just an exception? I don't know, folks. I don't know. I'm just thinking it's getting to be a little bit in your face. and I, for one, am getting kind of tired of the whole performance, and I'm looking for a little honesty and a little integrity from our governments. Anyway, that's the news as I saw it for this week, and I hope you all had a great Canada Day weekend and enjoyed the firework display. I think there was probably millions of dollars worth of fireworks let off on Sunday evening in a fantastic, fiery and colourful display. Well, you have a great week coming up, and as I say, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, and I hope you have a great week. See you now. Take care. Bye.